Hi, and welcome to episode 75 of The Glow. It's early evening twilight, maybe like 6:30 p.m. Eastern here in Asheville, North Carolina. Back in Asheville, North Carolina after a journey up north to Pennsylvania. Spent some family time in the place of my origin. Who's online? Say hello if you're here. I see some people showing up, but it doesn't say who's here. So if you're here, say hello. Tell me where you're from. And I'm going to keep things pretty relaxed and open and spontaneous. Hey, Katerina. Hello, Mary. Where are you from, Katerina? Where are you from, Mary? We're going to keep things pretty spontaneous and open today, so if you have any questions, just feel free to ask anytime. You know, I'm really here to be available to support people in questions that they have, things that they're inquiring into, things that they're exploring, things that they are in the process of discovering. Buffalo, New York. Wonderful. Welcome, Anita. Things that are on the growing edge of your growth. And we're also creating a foundation for what I call present moment awareness. So a meditative space to relax into a deeper space of what can sometimes be called stillness inside, presence inside, spaciousness inside. Really making a space to realize who and what we really are and who and what is really important. And to recognize and realize that, hi Jane. Jane is from United Kingdom. Welcome. To recognize and realize that the words that are being shared here are not what's most important. What's most important is a vibrational resonance, a vibrational frequency, a resonant field founded from the ground of being, from a space of presence. And being present together, you will discover, is the most essential element, and everything else is secondary. It comes from the ground of being present, of being in this moment together. Why is being present in this moment together what's most essential? Because this moment, this is the great mind-blowing revelation, this moment is all there is. This moment is all there is. Say it with me and kind of do a little dance with me. This moment is all there is. And when you recognize and you realize that this moment is all there is, then it's easy, maybe for the first time, to be in love and to have eyes that beam love, because love and presence are actually the same thing. To be present is to be in love. To be in love is to be present. To be present with what is to be in a field of love, to be in a vibration of love, to be open-hearted, to be open-minded. To be able to love unconditionally what's arising as it's arising. So then the mind goes, well, how do I do that? How do I make that happen? That sounds really great. How do I do that? The mind is not your friend in this regard. The mind is not going to help you to love this moment. Because the mind creates a character that is you, and you, the character, are trying to figure out a way to get closer to loving this moment. And that whole process is taking you away from this moment, from this beautiful, simple, precious, magical, miraculous moment as it is. Can you see how that works? So as soon as you ask the question, how do I love this moment? You've already taken yourself out of this moment, because this moment is right now. This moment is right now. It's always right now. It's never not right now. So any way, any step, any formula, any process, any strategy to love this moment is an illusion, because it's taking you to the illusion of a future moment where you'll be able to love this moment now. But you can't love the now in the future. You can only love the now. So we start to see all the ways, the mechanisms, the strategies, the formulas that the mind uses to get to a better future where we'll experience love. We're going to experience love in the future. We're going to experience love in the future. When I get the right man, then I'll experience love. When I get the right woman, then I'll experience love. When I get the right amount of money, then I'll experience love. When I get the right amount of fame, then I'll experience love. When I get the right house, then I'll experience love. When I get to the right community, the right city, the right place, then I'll experience love. When I get the right amount of material possessions, when I get the right dress, then I'll experience love. When I get the right job, then I'll experience love. When I have the right kind of work, then I'll experience love. When I have the right kind of friends, then I'll experience love. So all of these things, and it's endless what the mind can create, are taking you away from the awareness of this moment, and that love is here now. Always right now. So you can, this is the next level, which is you can even be aware of the way the mind's working. You can be aware of the formulas, you can be aware of the strategies, you can be aware of the steps the mind is taking to get you to some place of love. And if you can be aware of it now from a space of unconditional awareness, you can watch that movement from a space of unconditional awareness, you can love that now. You can love whatever's arising right now, including any strategy, any formula, any structure, any steps. Whatever's arising, love this now. Love everything that moves. Love everything that moves. And here's what's amazing. Everything moves. If you look closely, if you explore closely, there's no thing that's a thing that doesn't move. Everything that's a thing moves. Welcome, Liz Cox. We're so blessed to have your presence here with us. Thank you so much. Everything that's a thing moves. So love everything that moves. And everything that moves is temporary. Truth bomb, says Jane Flintoff. Mary says the mind likes to wander. You know, this notion that the mind is some kind of wild beast that needs to be tamed, maybe we can let that go. Maybe that's something we can investigate and sort of let that go. You know, the wild monkey mind, you need to kind of like wrap it up and put some chains around it and beat it in submission and tell it what to do and get it focused and have it submit to your will. What is all that? Is that really what we want? Is that really where the joy is, where the bliss is, where the freedom is, where the peace is, where the empowerment is? What about loving the mind as it is now? Loving the movement of the mind. Everything that moves. Love everything that moves. The mind moves. Thoughts move. Emotions move. Ideas move. Our visions move. our beliefs move, our perceptions move, our bodies move, our relationships move. Love everything that moves now. Now. Right now. It's so simple. It's so simple, but when we're in the mind, when we're lost in the matrix of the mind, when we think we're inside of the world is something constructed by the mind. It's not a physical reality. It's constructed by the mind. How about that? The world is constructed by the mind. It's not a physical reality. There's no physical world. There's no all of this, banging on things right here. It's constructed by the mind. The mind constructs the world of time and space. This is why when you dream, when you fall asleep, you think you have a body and you fall asleep and you dream, everything seems just as real. There's space, there's people, there's things, there's different voices, there's different faces, there's different environments, backdrops, forests and lakes and rivers and cities and skyscrapers. You know, there's all these different things in the dream. You wake up and you go, wow, I was dreaming. I didn't know I was dreaming. This is the exact same thing. The exact same thing. This is a dream within a dream within a dream. Every time-space continuum is a dream, right? Within a dream, within a dream, within a dream. So my feeling is, and I haven't gotten too much into this yet, because it's going to be its own particular journey. But my feeling is that science, as we know it, as we currently know it, is done, is over. Because they're dealing with this illusion that there's an objective material world, there's an objective reality that can be discovered. And quantum physics has showed us that the observer and the observed are one. So the very thing that you're observing is a function of the observer, is a function of the consciousness, the awareness itself. The two are inseparable. So if we really delve in that deeply and feel in that deeply, there's a recognition and a realization that we're not dealing with a world of material atoms and molecules and protons and electrons. What we're really dealing with is a world of consciousness, of beliefs. The universe is not made of atoms, it's made up of stories. What's your story? That's the question. The story you have is the way you're programming, you're coding the universe, your reality, your perception of reality. And when we recognize and realize this world's like a video game, and we're programming, we're coding what we're perceiving collectively and individually, then we've broken out of the illusion of being trapped inside this matrix, as it's sometimes called, of our conscious conditioning. And when we break out of the conditioning, we become conscious and aware that we can then recondition, reprogram the world we're living in. So we can, to put it in more simple terms, we can consciously co-create this world. So that's what's exciting, totally exciting. It's kind of like lucid dreaming. You know, you wake up and you go, wow, this is a dream. In the dream, I'm Brian Pierosi. Who's he? Right? And when you recognize that you're dreaming and you wake up in the dream, then you can really start to play. You can start to make your own characters. You start to make your own stories. You can start to make your own landscapes. Start to make your own backdrops. We can really create a world of love and beauty, freedom, expansion, unbounded imagination, empowerment, creativity. All of these things are possible, but first and foremost, only when you recognize and realize that everything's happening right now, which means there's no such thing as time in reality. Time is a construction of the mind, construction of consciousness, and we can spin it and flip it any way we want, which is already happening with movies, Hollywood, right? Shoot this now, shoot this here, let's edit this, let's put this in here, put that over here. We shot that yesterday, but let's put that'll happen towards the end of the movie. We shot that 3 weeks ago, that'll happen in the beginning of the movie. Let's edit this in, put that in, and you construct the illusion of time. And we're doing it with the mind all the time, but now we recognize and realize that we're doing it. Do affirmations work to reprogram the mind? So that gets to the core of the final part of what I want to share is any of this that I'm saying only becomes valid, only becomes valid, only becomes valid when you recognize and realize who and what you really are. When you recognize who you really are, self-realization, spiritual awakening, these are terms that are used to point to the recognizing and realizing who and what you really are. If you don't recognize and realize who and what you really are, then everything I'm saying just becomes another way of deluding yourself, of getting caught in the ego and getting trapped in space and time and trying to manipulate things and shift things and change things. What I'm saying is there's no reason to manipulate things at all. There's no reason to try to change things at all. There's no reason to try to control things at all. Everything is here now. Everything is here now. The great sages throughout all of history have all said the same thing. Everything is here now. The kingdom of heaven is here now. Nirvana is here now. Enlightenment is here now. The infinite is here now. That which transcends words is here now. That which transcends space and time is here now. Why? Because we're here now. And we're always here now. The ever-present I am that transcends space and time continuum is here now. So to recognize and realize who and what you really are is what allows you to play freely. Can you see that? Can you feel it a little bit, slightly? Does it have a certain energy to it? To recognize and realize who and what you really are allows you to play, allows you to play freely. And that's the only thing that allows you to play freely. Nothing else allows you to play freely. You feel trapped otherwise. You feel constricted. You feel lost. You feel isolated. You feel afraid. You feel worry. You feel stress. You feel anxiety. Because you've lost the essence of who and what you really are. That's the root issue. Who are you really? That's the root question. Welcome, Danielle. To recognize and realize who and what you really are. Because when you recognize and realize who and what you really are, which is not a thing, the essence of who you are is not a thing. There's temporary manifestations of who you are, and the temporary manifestation of who you are is everything that arises and falls moment by moment. But to recognize the essence of who you are is not a thing. This is the great spiritual liberation. How will you know when you have found who you really are? What a great question. Thanks, Danielle. How will you know when you have found who you really are? You know, I'm writing my book, the third book, which is going to be really, it's really just like clear and raw and authentic and vulnerable and magical, and I'm really excited about it. I just finished the first couple chapters. I'm going to turn it into the publisher here within a week, and I was writing about how there was a search for enlightenment that I was on. I was on this search for many years, a search for enlightenment. I'm going to find enlightenment. And enlightenment is and now it gets to discovering who you really are, recognizing who you really are. And so you think like you're going to get to this point and you're going to like kind of like a trophy. You're going to hold it up and be like, I got it. I found out who I really am. And you show it to everybody, and everybody cheers. All your friends are so happy for you. You've achieved the victory. And this is when you're in the ego. The ego thinks it's going to. The ego always thinks it's going to achieve something, or it's going to gain something. It's going to acquire something. The ego wants to acquire things. So it wants to. It makes the idea of who you really are something else to acquire. Right, so where in the early stages of ego, maybe you want to acquire a new car, or a new girl, or a new house, or more money, or a new higher level of status. Now you want to acquire who you really are. And so as you go further in this journey, you never actually acquire that trophy of who you really are, and you lift up and show it to everybody. The person that you thought you were, the story that you attached and identified with who you thought you were, that wanted to hold up the trophy, that answered the question in victory, hold up to everybody, that person starts to disappear. So the recognition of who you really are is a disappearance of any attachment identification to the person that you thought you were, and the story of who you thought you were. So there's a realization. You could say there's a knowing, but that word is a little tricky because this knowing, this realization, this awareness is not of the mind. It's not a story. It's not an idea. It's not a concept. It's not an ideology. It's not a dogma. It's not a belief. Look for that which is unchanging. Look for that which is unchanging. That makes a lot of sense. Who you really are is that which is unchanging. If it's something that's changing, then it's not who you really are. It's just a temporary manifestation of yourself. So what is it that's unchanging? The same that was here when you were 5 years old, as when you're 30 years old, as when you're 70 years old, as before you were born, as after you die. What is it that's unchanging? Who are you really? Recognize and realize that essence of who you are. Anchor in that. Live from that. Give yourself to that every day. Bring the awareness to awareness itself, and then, as our friend Russell Brand once said, then you shine like the sun. You beam like the big glow. And the rest is just play. It's the play of the dream. And then there's this openness, there's this expansiveness. The heart is open, the mind is open. There's a availability. There's this welcoming of the moment, because you're not looking for any future moment. There's not a sense of lack anymore, of trying to grasp, of trying to acquire, of trying to. There's a sense of a very natural, organic, innate, effortless sense of gratitude and appreciation, love for this moment right now. Because this moment right now is magic and miraculousness. And no scientific theory is ever going to explain it. You see what I'm saying? This idea that we're going to have some scientific theory. Why? For what reason? Because the mind wants to grasp, acquire. Totally unnecessary and delusional. When you recognize and realize who and what you really are. That's the fundamental element. All this law of attraction stuff, it's good, but it's only good if you recognize and realize who you really are. Otherwise, it's not good. It's bad. Because it's going to distract you. You're going to get caught in the ego. The ego wants to acquire this. The ego wants to acquire that. Well, let me use the strategy of the law of attraction to get it. This is going to create more suffering and delusion for yourself and everybody around you. When you recognize and realize who you really are, you can play with the truth of these truths in the law of attraction but not from a space of lack, not from a space of separation, from a space of infinite abundance that's ever present right now, from a space of being a clear channel for the universal creative intelligence to flow through you moment by moment. Anyone have any other questions or comments? One other thing is that the sense of external laws and commandments and rules and regulations and all of this stuff is also unnecessary. You are increasingly alive to the truth of the moment. Your only guidepost, your only navigational beacon is the creative energy that flows through you in the moment, that's unified to a higher creative intelligence that's connected to all things. Yes, everything we need is in the now. Absolutely. And the reason that all we need is in the now is because everything is in the now. There's nothing that's not in the now. The totality of the entire universe is in the now. So it's not like, oh, just settle for, what we need in the now. Just settle for this glass thing. I have a string that's attacking us, but I think if I put it over here, yeah. So it's not like, oh, I just have this item or that item. No, the totality of the entire universe is here now. There's nothing that's lacking. It's all here now. In fact, it's the opposite. It's when you're trying to partition things off to create some kind of, if I can get this one thing in the future. It's like when you get so attached and identified to one thing, you lose the totality of everything. But if you broaden your awareness to the totality of everything, which is here and ever present right now, then you actually have that one thing also, because that one thing is in the essence of everything. It's abundance consciousness. It's the true abundance consciousness. It's this vast, infinite spaciousness that's here now. And you don't need this one little thing or that little thing, because you have everything. Sometimes I say, why search for candles, right? You have light of the sun, right? So we're searching for these little tiny things that we can. The vastness is available, and is here now, and it's the essence of who and what we are. It's sometimes we call it the 0 point. Call it the 0 point. This infinite space of infinite potentiality, of infinite possibility. And we can recreate the universe and recreate universes every moment from this essence. Do we need to follow the so-called spiritual laws? People talk about. That's what I'm saying. No, you don't. You don't need to follow any laws. Laws are dead. They're like codified thoughts that are not alive and living in this moment, right? It's like training wheels on a bicycle. Sometimes at some point you gotta learn to ride the bicycle yourself, right? So when we're trying so hard to follow some kind of codified structure, then we're not coming from this deepest sense of empowerment, and we're not opening ourselves to the creative energy to flow through us in the moment, and we're not opening ourselves up to the magic and the miracle that life is right now. I don't have the exact quote, I could look it up maybe if I put some effort into it right now, but someone else can post it here. But there's a point where, yes, Phoenix, true. There's a point where they asked Jesus, the Christ, they asked him about the commandments. You know, do we need to follow these commandments to go to heaven? So something or other. And he says, in essence, he says, there's only two things you need to do. Love God with all your heart and soul, and love your neighbor as yourself. That's it. None of the rest of these things matter. That's what he said. You can check it out in the Bible and post the exact verses for me, somebody. When this is on the playback, someone will do that. So the point is, love. If you're in the essence of love, and you're in the love of what's arising now, and you're in the love of this moment right now, in an absolute unconditional open embrace of this moment right now, then you're in love with the entire universe right now, because we've established that the entire universe is here now and it's nowhere else. And if you're in this space of love, then there's nothing you need to try to think about or follow or understand, because it transcends, it moves too quick. It's alive now. There's a sense of boundless love that's present now. There's a sense of boundless creativity that's present now. There's a sense of boundless magic, miraculousness, amazement, wonder. That's here now. That you are the essence of this. And it's just a matter of saying yes to it. Saying yes to it. Saying yes to it. I love you all so much. Check out the links at the bottom. See you the next now.